Hi everybody, so today we're going to be discussing early America before 1492 and Christopher Columbus. So we're going to talk about the Native Americans. At the top of your paper, on the top of your notes, you're going to write Chapter 1, American Beginnings. This is going to be Section 1, Societies of the Americas before 1492. So make sure that that is at the top of your notes so that you keep organized. So the main idea behind this is the earliest societies of the Americas before 1492. In ancient times, people settled the Americas. Their descendants developed diverse Native American cultures. So what that means is, before Christopher Columbus came to the Americas, there were people already living here. There was many different types of groups, of tribes, of organizations, empires, cities, all different people who lived across the two continents. And all of these people had different cultures. Some things were similar, but some things were pretty different. Now, at the bottom of here it says, I want you to answer these in your notebooks. According to the map, which continent did Native Americans most likely come from? Now looking at this map, at the top it says possible migration routes of the first Americans. So migration routes means where people moved, and the routes in which they went when they were traveling. So the red one is the first migration, some 40 to 20,000 years ago. The second one was the green arrow, 12 to 6,000 years ago, and you can see some of them came by sea. And the blue arrow is the third migration, which happened between 10 to 5,000 years ago. And these people came from all these places where the arrows start. So you are going to have to answer that question. So which continent they came from. Looking at the map, you should be able to do that. So moving on. Alright. Now what you're going to write is the ancient people come to the Americas. That's going to be the heading for that section. You're going to write these notes and I'm going to read them to you, okay? So it says 22,000 years ago, hunters crossed from Asia to Alaska. And that's really the answer of the question from before. The continent that they came from was Asia. All the arrows came from that place. Another section, hunting and gathering. So 12,000 to 10,000 years ago, people hunted animals, they gathered nuts and berries. So that was the main way that they got food. They hunted large animals, they got nuts, they got berries, sometimes they ate roots, things like that. And then, after that, agricultural developed. So people were planting crops in central Mexico from 10,000 to 5,000 years ago. So agriculture just means crops and being able to grow and plant crops. Agriculture allows people to remain in one place, develop complex societies. Other cultures remain nomadic, moving in search of food and water. So when people are growing crops like corn, stuff like that, they tend to stay in one place. Once you have corn, or once you have something that you're growing like a food, a steady supply of food, that's when people start making towns and cities that are based around those things. Some of the Native Americans didn't do that. They didn't grow crops. They were nomadic, which is one of our vocab words, meaning that they moved around in search of food and water. Sometimes they would follow their prey. So nomadic means moving in search of food and water. Alright, let's move on. At the top of another section, you're going to write complex societies flourish in the Americas. Now, about 3,000 years ago, people began forming larger communities. These were empires of Middle and South America. So the Maya, they lived in Guatemala and Yucatan. The Aztec began building a civilization in central Mexico. And the Inca established an empire in the South America. So if you look at this map, you can see there's three different colors. The red is the Aztec, the green is the Maya, and the yellow are the Inca. Now they were all along the central and southern part, mainly towards coastlines. So the Aztecs, they're in central Mexico. You can see them there. The green ones, the Mayans of the Yucatan Peninsula. The yellow is the Inca, and they look like they're pretty much in South America, parts of Peru, Chile, Bolivia, places like that. That's where they lived. So another section, you're going to write, Native Americans live in diverse societies. Now I know like it looks like a lot, but don't get nervous, okay? You're going to be fine. The varied landscapes of North America encourage the diversity of Native American cultures. So in the Northwest Coast, places like, where Seattle is, or Washington or Oregon, those communities lived along streams, seashores, or sometimes in forests. They gathered shellfish, they hunted whales, otters, seals. They also placed totems, and that's another vocab word because it's in orange. Now, totems are symbols of ancestral spirits on masts, boats, or poles. They are often large wooden things that have different spirits or animals, stuff like that, and they kind of are an ancestral part of their culture. In Southwest, so we're talking places like Southern California, places like present-day Arizona, maybe New Mexico, the Pueblo people settled near waterways and built multi-story houses. Now they learned to grow corn, beans, melons, squash, things of that nature. In the eastern woodlands, so where we live in New Jersey, New York, places like that, there were tribes called like the Iroquois, and they built their villages in forests. They built farming communities, they hunted, they gathered. They had a very complex society. So depending on where they were, wherever the tribes were, would depend on how they set up their societies. If they're in the Northwest, there's larger forests out there, there's more sea life. They're going to live off the sea, and then they're going to live in forests. In the Southwest, there's more of a desert landscape. So that meant that they had to use the desert and the environment around them to help build their homes, build their communities, and what they could grow. And in the eastern woodlands where we live, there's a lot of forests as well, so people tend to live in the forest, like the Iroquois. They were able to set up farms because we had lots of soil to do so. So depending on the landscape, helped encourage the diversity of their culture. Now there was some shared cultural patterns. So another title is you're going to have Native Americans Share Cultural Patterns. I promise this is going to be the last slide, okay guys, so hang in there. So what you're going to write next is Native American groups shared patterns, methods of trade, and attitudes towards land ownership. Societies were organized also around their families. So those are two major points that you guys really got to take from this. Now, trading networks. Trade is one of the biggest factors in bringing tribes in contact with one another. Some tribes made specific things and then were able to trade them with other tribes to get things that they didn't make. Land use. So Native Americans, generally speaking, consider land the source of life, and it's not to be sold. It's not something that you could own. There was no physical land ownership. Like today, we own a house, or we own a car, or we own, we rent property, or rent a condo or an apartment or something. There was none of that. The land wasn't something you could buy. Religiously, their religious beliefs were often filled with stories of spirits and ancestors that guided people and guided their descendants, their children, or their other people that were in their family, and they could talk to them. And social organization. So some groups organized themselves with their families. You stayed with your family, or sometimes they were in clans, where larger groups of families had a common ancestor or common lineage would stay together. And those are just some similarities that you could really find in a wide variety of Native American cultures. Alright, that's the last thing you guys had to write, guys. Good job.